Welcome, everybody, to the Mississippi Advisory Commission on Marine Resources meeting dated Tuesday, November 19th. I want to ask Commissioner Mayfield if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
Thank you, Commissioner. General Spraggins, you want to lead us in prayer?
Yeah, and before we start, just we got a little disturbance out there. Hopefully, everything's just going to be rain for today, and that'll be it. And looks like everything's happening. Hope it doesn't cause any damage to the. It's going back up to the northeast, and going to cut across there where North Carolina and South Carolina has already had devastation and don't need any more. And a lot of Florida. So let's keep them all in our prayers, everybody out there. And so let's keep them there. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for everything. We know that it's not ours, it's yours. And that we're here on the earth to do what you ask us to do and to do it your way and not ours. And we just ask that you would take this commission and take this agency and give us the wisdom to do it your way and not ours. I ask this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. So we have the minutes from October 22nd. Do we have any questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda? If so, are there any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, Director.
Okay, we're going to start out with the employment contracts. And Emmett Carson is promoted to Environmental and Natural Resources Specialist 3 at the Grand Bay Near. We have two new hires. Is Dina Thomas and I started with the Dispatch 2 with Marine Patrol, and then Jason Moffrey, who accountant 3 in our Office of Finance. So glad to have those on board, and always glad to be able to promote. Any questions on that? Okay, contracts, we got one with USM. It's $2.5 million. This is a 5-year contract. We do a master contract with them every year, every so many years, every 5 years. And, in the past, we've done like $5 million, but we never used all of it anywhere close to it. So we decided that and it was best for finance and all just to lower it down. And they're fine with it. Everybody's good. We can always raise it if we need to. So, any questions on that? Okay, agency update. We got our next commission meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December the 17th at 9 a.m. Any questions or any problems with that?
When?
Tuesday the 19th, not 17th. Jason, are you on?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, all right, good.
I'm good.
Everybody good? All right, so we'll stay with that date. We had a update on our GOMA meeting, October 23rd and 24th in Gulf Shores. We had a good meeting, which was a kind of an annual meeting that they have. Basically, just looking at things that we're going to do and how we're going to move forward with GOMA. It's no big changes. Nothing big, major, any different than what we've been doing over the last few years. GOMA's doing very good, and they've been getting grants, and everything works good for them. They're the ones that are sponsoring, and they're helping us with the federal side of the derelict vessel. So they're doing a great job with that. And then we're looking at several other programs that we're looking at. Rick, is there anything I'm missing on that? All right, any questions on GOMA? Titling's checked. We received it. Secretary of State, $11 million. So thank you, Secretary. We appreciate that. And the money is already being allocated. There was about a little over $5 million of it that was going to public access, in which Sonia, I'm sure, sent that out already to everybody. We've signed those. We had about $1.2 million bond debt that we had to pay, and about $1 million of it is also set aside to pay prior year projects. So, you know, we never know what we're going to have in the prior year that keeps coming in. So we have to have prior year projects there. We've never spent the total 11, 12 million in one time, but it's come close a couple of times. So this will be good. And then we got about a little over 3 million that we can do managed projects with, and which makes it mainly helps us run the agency. It does, obviously it pays for the titling, the monitors, and several jobs in it. And then it also pays for Lyman Fish Hatchery, and you know, to be able to keep it operational. And it pays 50% of what it takes to operate the Heritage, and it's 30% of it is what it takes to operate the NEAR. And then obviously we subsidize fisheries with things that they do for as different programs that they have, and then some others in the agency also. And we also do things like, you know, we pay for our flights that we do to fly over and check the amount of boats and everything and what's going on. So it's a pretty good program, and we're doing good with it. Any questions on the titlings? All right, we got a update on Gulf Council. Well, I was in St. Petersburg and during the election night of all times. We had to have that during the election. I told them, I said, y'all need to pick another week. You know, we would not have it during the time we have election. But they, you know, it was just the way it worked out. But anyway, MS Krill, we're going forward. We're moving forward to MS Krill. We're having a few little loopholes with that right now. Obviously, Washington is not funding things right as they have been as quickly. And with the change of command coming in January, there's some funding issues. And the question is, will they or will not they not be able to get the funding through by the end of the year so we can be ready in January? If not, I've told them we will fund it out of the agency. I tell you, we're not going to let this fail. We're going to keep going forward, and no matter what happens, we're not going to let it fail, and we're going to be able to make sure that we get it done until NOAA can start funding the project. But we do not want MS Krill to back up. We want it to move forward. That, I think, is what's going to help us so much, and with our, especially our snapper resources, and what we'll have to be able to, what our allocation will be. And it's also going to help us too, though, because we're going to have a better understanding of what we have with even speckled trout and other fish, because it'll be basically an all across the board. And it's something we'd been wanting to do with tails and scales for years, but it was just so expensive. We couldn't have done it. We could have never done it with tails and scales to be able to do the whole gamut. So this way we might be able to do that, and maybe we can get a lot better understanding. Once we get that done, then basically MREP will be out, and we'll be doing it, and hopefully that federal government will help still fund us their part of the MREP that they were giving right now, and then we'll just make it up with what we were doing with our tails and scales. So it should be a kind of a wash. If everything works out, it ought to be a wash and not too much out of the way. Amendment 59 and 60 is still working, and so we'll see. That's basically talking about the allocations of if we do get additional snapper, you know, for the commercial side of it, and what we're going to be able to do with that. Jason, do you have anything to add to the to that? Jason's also on the council.
Oh, I think you summarized it pretty well. I think it was a pretty good meeting overall. I think there's going to be some interesting conversations happening at the next council meeting. So I'm looking forward to, you know, trying to figure out where the fights are going to be, but ultimately I think we're in a good position there.
Okay. Any questions?
I got a question. I have a question on snapper. I see that they came out with additional ACL they never met the ACL on the federal side, the federal waters. So that gave the opportunity for hire and for folks with the commercial permits to be able to go in the federal waters. Is that as far as the recreational side? I mean, there's no opportunities for the rec guys to be able to go into federal. Whenever they put that together, they said only the commercial for hire, and then the okay.
Yeah, it's Trevor, come up. You know more about this than anybody in the world. But this is basically what it is. They have like 3 point something million, and they only caught 2.3 million. And so what they want to do is go back and open it back up to the end of the year, I think is what they're looking at. And the one thing that we did is that we decided in our order that we put out that we closed the state waters, 9 miles, out to 9 miles. They can't use it because we don't want to go out and, and basically rape the reefs and everything else in that 9 miles that we do. Trevor, you got?
The federal fire ACT is right over 3 million pounds. They've only harvested 2.1 million pounds. It looks like the unders are occurring in every state. So each one, Florida, Alabama, and Louisiana, from what I've seen, are under. A couple are 250, one's 200, the other one's 50,000 pounds, and all that just culminated into leftover ACL to be reopened. They have reopened in the past. I think 2 years ago was an additional week. That didn't turn out to be fruitful because, as y'all can imagine, it's probably a little bit difficult to book those kind of trips this time of year with the weather and everything else. And I think after observing that, they decided just to go ahead and open it from November 18th all the way through the end of the year. And that was a decision at the federal level. Now, to clarify, it's only for the federally permitted for-hire guys. The commercial guys, that entire group is still under quotas and tax and everything. So, IFQs. So they can basically harvest the poundage that is allotted to them
Anytime.
throughout the year.
Right.
That's how they're constrained. This is only for the federally permitted for-hire guys.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, we normally, they do that. It starts sometime in June normally, right? And then it goes to about, what, August?
Yeah, it's been steadily increasing over time for the last 6 or 8 years. So it started out as June through July, then got extended a little bit more, and I think it was at 84 days for the last little while. And so there's more and more time, and the ACL's not getting caught. So this time they try to reopen to provide that. And there's been conversations at the council level, I think, of different opening schedules and everything else to make sure that the reopening doesn't happen at the end of the year, but those are going to be ongoing for a little while.
Yeah, with it, that basically as to the season itself, normally it's been in June and, whenever we opened up the federal side of it. And I think we're going to make it to where the federal for hire and all can open up the same time that we open up our recreational for hire, and we're all shooting. Majority of the people are shooting for, and I don't want to say this is 100% how it's going to go. And Jason, you can chime in too if you have any different. But the majority is looking probably the weekend before Memorial Day as an opening for everybody. Now, there was some options of opening up the 15th of May, and there were some options of opening up all the way in April. But I think that's where it's at. Jason, do you remember if there's any different on that?
I'm sorry, repeat that again.
Will you repeat?
Do I remember what?
Jason. Yeah, what we're
Yes.
talking about is the federal for hire being able to change it, the date till probably the weekend before Memorial Day. I think is what we're talking about on the council and voting on it in January.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So I think
Yeah,
we're
I mean,
good
I
with
think
that. Any questions,
there was-
Trevor?
I think there was only one potential objection to that, and I don't think he was hardened in his objection, the guy from Florida, but I think that's going to pass through.
Yeah, I know Louisiana was trying to, they normally had opened up in April or something. They was talking about doing it all the way back. Then they looked at, and Texas and others looked at, we all looked at the 15th of May. And I think after everything came down, that we pretty much 4 of the 5 states have decided that I think that we're looking at the weekend before Memorial Day. And if that's the case, all will have to go that way, I would think, because that's federal.
So if that happens, will rec and state for hire, will they still be opening on Memorial Day?
Yeah,
It
what
would still
weekend?
be the
Yeah.
same time?
Yeah, what this is going to allow is if there's a federal for hire boat that's going out there and basically they've got a charter that weekend, that they've got charters, they could go out and they could still go catch, snapper. For now, they can't. They have to wait till it opens, and so it's just going to make it a little different. But I think it's best overall because we get it to where everything's aligned 100%.
It just seems like we're up at this point right now where we're catching our ACL, and the other states aren't. So is it lopsided? I mean, everybody has to see
Our
what's going
ACL
on.
so low, it's a problem.
It's crazy.
And,
The conversation was opposite in the beginning of this whole thing.
well, and there's
Poor
also
calibration.
there's a conversation being brought forward, and I brought it up this last meeting, and I asked Andy with NIMS to basically do it and look at it with the study with the council to be able to say that if we come to the end of the year in 2024 and there's allocation left in the Gulf and one state is over and one, and another's under, could we use that allocation to keep somebody from having to pay back? And that's, they do that in the Atlantic district and all, and some others. And the question was, I think that's something that's amenable to everybody. I believe everybody's on board with it, that they want to do it. It's just going to it will probably be 2026 before it goes in effect, if I had to guess, because it's got to go through all its wickets. But at least that would be something like last year when we went over X amount of pounds, we wouldn't have to pay it back because we had two states that were under, or 3 states that were under, and we could have easily, done that. It would be something that would be voted on year to year to year by the council, because that way it wouldn't be something that you can just, one state could abuse it or whatever. But anyway, we're getting forward. We're moving. Hey, we're getting somewhere, and it looks like we're going good with it. Anything else on snapper? Okay. Thanks, Trevor. Oyster season opened on the 13th, and guess what? We went for a month and a half with no rain, and guess what happened? We should have opened the oyster season in October, because we could have got some rain then. And but anyway, that's just the way nature does it. And the first day was very bad. The winds and the rain was pretty horrible. Second day was a little better. The third day was a little, and the fourth, and it's getting there. And then obviously today we shut down. There's not anybody out there, I don't think, oystering today at all. We'll look at what we had to do. We had to close some waters to start with on the first day. We'll look at what we have to do after today with the rains we had last night and what we'll do. But we'll adjust. Don't worry about it. We about right at 300 sacks of oysters, somewhere just short of 300 sacks. But that's fine. And but that's 300 sacks more than we've had in 5 years. And the other thing is that we're going to adjust. We'll adjust to the point that we know we got a number that we want to look at, and we're going to keep looking at that number. And if we don't overcatch that, we'll be fine. And I don't think we will. And we'll either decide here in the next week or so that we're going to change the number of sacks and go from 10 to 15 or whatever. And I think that's in our order that we can do that, and we can just change it. And do we have to ask the commission for permission on that? I think we got that in the thing originally when we did it. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
looking
in
at
the
Rick 'cause
opening
he's-
order, so you're fine.
Huh?
It's in the opening order, so
Yeah,
you're okay.
and I was looking at Rick. He was shaking his head both ways, so that was good. But but anyway, long story short, I think what we'll do is we will probably run this one and it goes to the is it the 25th? I think it is right before Thanksgiving, and we'll probably and see what happens there, and once we get that date, once we get through that, then we'll turn around and decide where we're at, unless we decide to do something this week, but I doubt it because it's already at that point. But then we'll go back in our next season. We may open it a little earlier than what we have, or we may wait and open again in January some more. But we will get it done, and we may change the allocation from 10 to 15 or whatever sacks to be able to see what we can do. All right? Any questions? Nature just didn't work with us right at the start here. If you saw where the governor, I was there with the governor the other day, and we announced the restoration projects for on November 13th, 110 million. Out of that, there was quite a few of those projects in South Mississippi. And one of the major reasons for that is because we have Restore Act, which has to be spent in South Mississippi. And we also have the Go Mesa, which has to be spent in South Mississippi. And we have Tidelands projects that have to be spent in South Mississippi. So those things have to happen. And then there's other projects that are funded by the legislature and the governor and all, to the governor's council, and then that are done. But it's all in South. There's areas that have to be done here. We have a couple of new projects that were added at the last minute. It was the projects that were done in the bill that was passed this past April, and it went effect July the 1st as far as Argo Mesa. And but we did add some projects up to about $8 million, and some of those projects was to basically we got to be able to start mapping our harbors now. And we got a project that we're using with NOARC to be able to map the harbors, and we're going to be able to map each one of the commercial harbors across the coast to where we can now have a baseline, and that baseline will say that this is where we're at today, and this is what would happen if we have a storm or anything else, and then we'll be able to have something for them to be able to fight FEMA for, to be able to get replaced. And this is a 5-year program, and it will continue. And we'll be updating it, and then we'll look at it at the 5-year and probably have to put more funding into it if we want to continue. But that's a great deal. We also funded $3.2 million, I think it was, for USM to start a development, and it's basically to development in aquaculture, an aquaculture development course, and it's basically a helping people learn how to get into aquaculture. So that's going to be great. That's going to be something that works out for us. A couple other things that we funded, but we also funded some stuff for Gulfport, where their sewer system over there, they got a bad problem in one area there, and we gave them about $1.7 million to be able to update that some and be able to keep it going until they can get the final fix what they need on it. And we did give an IMMS got $1 billion to be able to go forward and help build that new hospital. So we'll have a new hospital to take care of the dolphins and the turtles and everything else here. So I think that's a great deal too. And then the last $800,000 of it that we spent was to be able to continue our study for it's basically the land and where we at and where we say that the insurance ought to be for this level, this level, this level. And it's what we're looking at is basically setting the zones and being able to get FEMA to understand that and changing the zones that we're doing to say that, what was done after Katrina is not 100% sure what we need to be now. And I think it's going to help a lot of people if we get this done. So this will be something that could change the insurance ratings and could change where you have to have flood insurance. It could change a lot of things that are going on. Any questions on that? All right. On bottom lease. We'll start December 2nd reviewing everything. We're already reviewing a lot of them. Hopefully we'll get these things done and be able to get the on-bottom lease started in the 1st of January to people. So we're right now what we're doing, if somebody's put an application in, we're looking at it, and then we're going back and seeing if there's anything missing and telling them, hey, you need to correct this. So we're trying to be proactive with it to make sure we got as much as we can to get it done. Bonnie Carey update. I got one somewhere here. All right. Sorry about being long-winded. The financial assistance for the commercial fisheries and seafood dealers, charter fishermen, businesses, funding is $7.9 million, and we spent $7.675 of it. So commercial was $7.1 million of that, and the charter was $573,000. Round 2 open for new applicants in October the 28th, and we'll close November the 26th. What we're talking about, there was some people that either didn't get to put the information in because they was out fishing somewhere or whatever, and they just didn't see it and didn't know it. So we did have some extra money that we were able to put back into this program, and we're looking at it, and we're trying. If you applied the first time, yours is already done. And now, if it was something that you didn't apply for the first time, that's entirely different. But if you applied the first time, it's already been done, and this is just for anything that was outliers that was sitting there. The applications only for eligible participants that missed the first round. 74 applications have been received so far. So there is some people that did miss some things on it, and so we're good that we can help. Also, our grant program for new and emerging seafood processing technologies is $3.7 million roughly. We spent about $83,000 of that. That period is grant application period opened on July the 15th and closed on September 13th. The staff has approved 27 applications meeting program requirements and are addressing the disbursement request now. The cap proportional payout plan will be capped with the amount requested at 1.5. In other words, if you spent more than 1.5, you're not going to get anything for that point. I'm not saying you're going to get 1.5. We don't have that kind of money. But the point is that we're using that as a cap to start with and working from that point down. So if, whatever the numbers were, that's what we're gonna be able to do. Any questions on that? Okay, shellfish harvest training video is, funded with 77,000. We're in the process of, finalizing the script and education stuff to be able to teach people how to be able to do the shellfish. That's basically an update on where we at on it. The other projects are working. Anything else on the Bonnie Carey? All right, we're anxiously waiting to find out who's gonna be the head of, commerce. I haven't seen it unless he announced it last night and I didn't see it. But, we're looking to the Secretary of Commerce, because Secretary of Commerce then will appoint the heads of NOAA. And so that will tell us who we're gonna deal with. And, that's big things for us to be able to look at. I think that, Senator Wicker will still be on the Commerce Committee. He's not gonna be the chair, because he's gonna take the chair of military affairs. So, I think that, we'll have someone, but we'll be looking at it and, seeing what we need to do. I don't know what the change will be. I don't know what the new person, I'm pretty sure they will change the secretary, but I'm not sure what they will do as far as, under that. That'll be left up to that person. So we're in limbo right now to see what happens. All right, we will be closed Thanksgiving Day and the day after. So, governor's been gracious and gave us that. So if you need, now, that may, everybody, but, Marine Patrol never closes. So, they'll be open. They don't, if you're thinking about I'm gonna be out there for free, we out there, aren't we? All right, last thing, we got derelict vessel update. 171 derelict vessel cases have been reported, 142 have been removed, 29 are pending removal, and 9 received court orders for removal. All right, I think that's got that. Now we're down to, I don't think there's anything else on the updates except for the action update, and we need to do that.
Good morning, Commissioners and Director. At the October 2024 meeting, the Commission recommended and the Director approved a limited oyster season in the Western Mississippi Sound to be open, as the Director discussed this morning, for periods in November and December, with sack limits of 10 sacks per day per vessel, with a opening order to be issued detailing areas of harvest and harvesting methods. And that's all the action items we have for today's update.
Any questions on those? If not, Mr. Chairman, that's our report.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Commissioners, do we have anything to report for the month? I'll just say I appreciate the staff and the entire, organization here to be able to push the snapper, what you guys are doing. We see it on the recreational side, so we appreciate that. All right, moving on to.
Hey, hold on a second. Hey, guys, sorry.
Come on.
If I could political intel on what I'm hearing from DC and the new administration that we need to pay attention to, which is, as odd as it sounds, this new kind of, I don't even know if it's a governmental entity, but the effort that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are putting together, that I think it's Department of Government Efficiency. I know a few folks that are working inside of that effort, and NOAA is apparently on the chopping blocks in some fashion. So we need to be mindful of kind of how to navigate that. Luckily, our delegation in DC is going to be pretty strong in that regard. As it relates to Department of Commerce and who the secretary is going to be, I don't have any. I've heard some names, Linda McMahon being one of them, but it could be anybody at this point. But general, I think there's going to be a lot of work that we're going to need to do in the beginning of the year to make sure that the stuff we like stays and the stuff we don't, we're okay with it going away.
Yeah, I understand that. And, there's a lot of things in there. That was just to give you an idea. We were talking about doing some things at Goma the other day, even to where we said, hey, we're just going to hold back. We're going to hold back and not spend that money right now because we don't know if we're going to be able to get it replenished or not. So there's a lot of issues that are going on. Obviously, they are looking at ways of cutting the government, and which I can't argue with that. But the thing is that we got to find out what's gonna survive, and that's gonna be something that probably we won't know until probably the middle of next year. I would say to a point. So we're gonna have to look at a lot of things, and hopefully we'll be able to keep our programs. We're going up. The 5 state directors are going up in February to meet with the senators and congressmen from the coast, and so we'll see what we can do about helping out any way we can. Thanks, Jason.
Yep.
Appreciate it, man. All right, moving on to Chief Wilkerson on the citations report.
Good morning, Commissioners, Director, Legal. October was a very compliant month. Everybody played well with others, and Director, I thank you, but you are correct. Marine Patrol never sleeps, and we're out there every day, every hour. So, in saying that, nothing really jumps out at me on this report. There's a few odds and ends. There's a few woodlands violations that we took care of, just kind of fell upon us, and we handled that with we expedited that with a deer, and as y'all probably looked at it, and we handled that business, and wildlife also assisted with that also. But other than that, I'll take any questions on what I can give you information wise.
Any questions? Appreciate it, Chief. Thank you for the information.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we're moving down to the Bureau of Wetlands Permitting. Maybe a Katie Nelson. Okay.
All right. So, thank you for the introduction and good morning, everyone. My name is Katie Nelson, and I represent the Office of Coastal Resource Management. Today, I will be presenting a request for a permit by Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. The proposed project is located near Buccaneer State Park in Hancock County, near Waveland and Lakeshore communities. It is in the general use district. The agent on the project is Neil Schaefer, and the proposed project purpose and need is to remedy harm to Gulf Coast resources caused by the Deepwater Horizon oil spill by creating subtidal reef habitat to enhance secondary productivity and improve recreational fishing opportunities. The applicant is proposing to fill unvegetated coastal wetlands for the construction of a submerged artificial reef. It's actually, there are 2 portions of the proposed artificial reef. There's a shoreward portion that will be subtidal. Will be made up of approximately 106.9 acres of limestone culch material. Maximum cubic yardage will be 473,000 cubic yards of material. The portion of the permit for this part will be conditioned to not allow harvesting until the required monitoring is completed. Then the secondary portion of this artificial reef is will be a Gulfward block reef made up of 0.2 acre of manufactured concrete blocks. Each block will be 3 by 3 by 3, and a total of 1,120 blocks will be placed in clusters of 32. And this portion, the Gulfward block portion, will be about 100 feet from the subtidal reef part. And the clearance on both of these reefs will be 3 feet. And here is the project location. On the left is just satellite imagery But on the right side map is the project footprint. As I said, you know, the shoreward portion, and then there's the Gulfward portion that will be made up of the blocks. And you will also see on the right side, the topographic map. It is south of Buccaneer State Park, and it will be approximately 1,000 feet from the shoreline, which is in the riparian zone of Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, as well as coastal preserves. And we have received approval from both for the reef to be placed within their riparian zones. On the left side is just a cross section of the mulch material and reef blocks, showing that neither will exceed the 3 feet clearance. And then there's a representation of the type of reef block that they will be using on the right side. And then just below that is the cluster layout that they are intending to place the reef blocks in. So as I said previously, the project area is in the general use district, but the applicant is requesting a use plan change to a special use district S6 for restoration and enhancement areas. They're justifying this request by stating that there is significant public benefit in the activity, impacts to public access, and adverse environmental impacts have been minimized. The general public and governmental entities have been notified of the project, and a public hearing has been held. They are also requesting a variance for the fill of coastal wetlands and justifying the variance by stating that the activity requires a waterfront location, there is significant public benefit in the activity, and a public hearing has been held. Notification of the project ran in the Sun Herald on September 8th, 15th, and 22nd. It also appeared on our website from August 30th to September 30th of this year. And we held a public hearing in Hancock County on October 24th. We did receive some public comments, and we've summarized them. They're on the slide, but I will go through each of the question and then give our answer to the question. So, the first part, there were questions about whether there would be onshore structures that may affect scenic qualities of the area. And DMR is only reviewing impacts submitted by DEQ, which include just subtidal reefs. There might be other projects in the future for onshore structures, but this project is only being evaluated for subtidal reefs. The next question we received, why beach renourishment doesn't take place south of Gulfside Assembly property. Gulfside Assembly is one of the adjacent property owners. I believe it's east of Buccaneer State Park. But they were asking why beach renourishment doesn't take place in the front, south of their property on the beach. And we answered by saying the beach renourishment is not the responsibility of MDEQ or MDMR. However, we did check Hancock County's renourishment permit, and the part of the beach that the Gulfside Assembly is asking about was excluded, and we don't know why those portions were excluded. They also asked what material will be used, and we covered that in previous slide. That will be mulch material and manufactured reef blocks. Why did I do that? Sorry. What effect will there be to the material during a hurricane? And that information will be covered in whatever DEQ's adaptive management plan will be. If the material moves around and causes any damage, the permittee will be responsible for those repairs. Are there any other reefs in the area? And there are no other existing oyster reefs in the proposed project footprint. Will this project affect beach renourishment? And no, this project is not anticipated to affect any beach renourishment, as the reef itself will be constructed up to 1,000 feet from the shoreline. And will there be harvesting of any oysters? The permit MDEQ receives will be conditioned so that no oyster harvesting will be allowed during the monitoring period. After their monitoring period is finished, oyster harvesting in the area will be determined by MDMR based on the same rules for other oyster reefs. We did not receive any comments from the other offices of DEQ that we send applications to. MDAH gave no comments, and Secretary of State had no objections to the project. After a thorough evaluation of the project based on decision factors in our Mississippi Coastal Program, the project would serve a higher public interest by providing habitat to enhance coastal resource productivity for many species such as shrimp, blue crabs, oysters, and fish, restoring injuries to natural resources caused by the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, and increasing recreational fishing opportunities. Therefore, the staff recommends a motion to the commission recommend to the executive director to approve the requested variance, approve the requested use plan change, approve the permit as requested, and additionally, condition the permit to contain the following: submission of an adaptive management plan to be reviewed by MDMR staff prior to construction of the reefs, coordination with U.S. Coast Guard for necessary navigational aids at the project location, as well as an SAV inspection of the project area during the growing season prior to implementation of the project. The survey report should be submitted to MDMR wetlands permitting staff at least 30 days prior to the project commencement. If SAV is found in the project area, a final review and approval approval by MDMR staff should be required prior to project commencement. And these are conditions that have been added to DEQ restoration project permits previously. Are there any questions?
So just so I'm clear, the blocks are going to be subtitled as well, right? They're not going to
Correct.
above the water.
No. No. No portion of this reef will exceed 3 feet below, so negative 3 feet. That makes sense.
I think it's all
Sorry.
great.
Okay.
I'm happy to see it coming in. You know, it's going to provide some great opportunities at fishing. But I'm just curious, what are the blocks there just for that reason, or does it play into the oysters somehow?
As far as what the application says, it's secondary productivity for multiple species. It's not just for oysters. I'm not sure how much oysters like the reef blocks. I'm not sure, but it's as far as what's stated in the application, it's just for all the little vertebrates, invertebrates, whatever.
I like all of it. More structure over there will be great. I'm absolutely in favor of it.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you put substrate down the other way in that area, it's going to be, it's in the riparian rights, I think is where we're at. So there's going to be oysters that's going to probably attach to it, and there's going to be some oysters in there and all, but there would not be harvestable oysters for that, at least for the first 5 years, I know for sure, because that's what the program is. And so there won't be anything harvested in there by that time. And I'm not sure, Rick, are there any plan to put any oysters on that?
Just limestone is what I saw.
No, sir. As Katie mentioned, it's a secondary productivity reef, so it's not necessarily designed to be an oyster reef. It will grow oysters, and it will, just like any hard substrate you put out there, it's going to have oysters and barnacles and things like that. But it's designed basically as a more so of a fishing reef that's capable of growing oysters. So there's not going to be any additional oysters or spat on shell or anything like that added to it, but it will provide a benefit for the oyster resource. It could be a spawning reef, is kind of what we're looking at it to be in the future if everything goes right.
I like it.
It's kind of hard to tell, but I think maybe the blocks are there to help just for the longevity of the reef.
Yeah, that was designed by, I can't remember the firm that they used, but it was designed by the engineering firm, I believe, for some like low level siltation, and then the way it is, there's a lot of crevices and things for refuge for various species.
Well, you guys answered my question in the final slide about the navigational aids. That's the only other question I had. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns? If not, do we have a motion to take the staff's recommendation?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. All right. No office then. All right. Skipping on down to public affairs, Ms. Charmaine.
Good morning. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources had 61 media mentions since the October MACMR meeting. News items included reopening the 2019 Bonnie Carey Spillway Fisheries Disaster Recovery Program, the Coffee Creek Pavilion and Outfall Project, the Tidelands Trust Fund check presentation with the Secretary of State's office, and the opening of oyster season. The Office of Marine Patrol took part in Boo Fest at Ocean Adventures Marine Park October 26th, Touch a Truck with Holy Trinity Catholic Church on October 28th, Career Day at East Hancock Elementary School October 29th, and Ocean Springs School District's Trunk or Treat October 31st. On November 8th, Ellen Coffin with the Shellfish Bureau gave a presentation on off-bottom oyster aquaculture with USM's marine biology students. And Director Spraggins and Rick Burris gave a presentation to the Biloxi Rotary last week that included an agency update as well as information on the Deer Island expansion project.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Looks like we have a 25 funding recap and 26 application recap. Ms. Sanja Slater.
Good morning. I'm Sonia Slater with the Tidelands Coordinator for DMR. I'm just going to go over with you our applications that were received for the FY26 fiscal year. I have a copy of the book that has all the applications in it if any of y'all want to review it. Tidelands always accepts applications a year in advance, so we've already accepted applications for FY26, and our next application cycle, which I thought we corrected this, is actually for FY27, and it will occur May 31st of 2025, and it will end July 1st of 2025, and then the awards will come down in October and November of 2026, but that'll be for the FY27 application cycle. The FY26 application cycle will receive 75 applications in total, requesting over $30 million in funding. 39 of those were public access applications, requesting over $22 million in funding, and 36 were managed projects applications, which include the MDMR, USM, and MGC, and some miscellaneous managed projects, requesting over $7.3 million. We were appropriated $11 million, as the director mentioned earlier, in the FY25 funding cycle, and we have awarded most of those projects. All the public access projects have been awarded. They in that 11 million, they gave us 5.3 for public access. 4.5 went to 13 different projects within the cities across the 3 coastal counties, and 1 miscellaneous project, which was the USM project, and 2 Board of Supervisor projects for $600,000. Our managed project funding, we received $3.8 million for managed project funding for the MDMR. We had $1.5 million funding for the bond payment that has to be made, and another $1 million for prior year expenses. Prior year expenses applies to projects that were awarded prior to this fiscal year that are still in the works of being completed. We don't want those funds to interfere with the new funds. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Trevor, you've been sitting back there anxious to come up and tell us about these records.
Yeah. So we got a couple good stories on these. So we've got 3 records today. The first one's a conventional tackle. Atlantic Stingray, Daisyatus sabina. This is actually probably on the top 15 of species caught, and we never had a record for it. It's the first one. So we've had probably millions caught down here, and no one ever submitted it because they thought that it was already a record. But we had a new record, 8 pounds. It was a giant. The angler was Mr. Jawan Walton. There's a picture of the stingray. There's Mr. Walton with the stingray. Next up, youth conventional. Got our man Rody Arms showing up with a sharp-nosed shark. He's been trying for this one for a while. 11 pounds, 0.64 ounces. There is the shark. There's Rody with the shark. And then we had a northern kingfish come in. So this is a new record too. This is the 3rd of the ground mullet or kingfish species that we had that we don't see very often. Mr. Chris Barlow actually broke this record 3 days prior to Mr. Wrightson bringing it in, but Barlow took Mr. Wrightson and his father out, and they ended up breaking Mr. Barlow's record 3 days after he submitted it. So new record of 6.08 ounces. There's a picture of the fish. It's got that high dorsal fin, which differentiates it from the other ground mullet species. And there's Cooper with that fish. That's all we need is a motion to recommend the adoption of the new state records.
Appreciate that. Trevor, anybody have any questions?
I'll make the motion that we adopt the records.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
All right. Looks like Aisha Gray for the near interpretive center redesign. I didn't say that right, but maybe you can help me out.
That's fine. Good morning.
Interpretive.
This is
There we go.
the interpretive center and our redesign. So about September in 22, we submitted a proposal to the Institute of Museum and Library Services. We submitted to this particular group because the Senator Wicker's office asked us to. I think a lot of these grants had gone to northern states, and he wanted to see some of them come down south. So the project was called Visualizing Interpretive Space Through Integrative Teamwork. And what this was a planning, collaborative, community collaborative designing process so that folks could meet folks from the community, educators that we work with, employees of the NEAR, employees of other types of programs like ours, could all meet and discuss what we'd like to see at the Interpretive Center at the NEAR. So next slide. So through all of that work, this is some drawings of what we've come up with. And so we worked with Taylor Studios, who are actually the folks that did the original interpretive center that we have now. So they were very excited to help us refresh our interpretive center with new educational displays. And so next slide. Actually, stay on this slide. The central theme of this is kind of what all of the displays kind of rotate around or relate to, and ours is much of the value of our coastal ecosystem is revealed in the unseen and the unheard. And so visitors will peer through this interpretive gallery and they're struck by its visual abundance. A pitched interactive site map instantly attracts, that's in the, is this a laser? Yeah, right. Whoops, sorry. Laser doesn't work. Right in the center there, you can see that pitched map. And that will attract visitors, and there'll be light up features, which will show different, like where our monitoring sites are, where different features of the estuary and marsh, our boundaries and things like that. The floor waterway provides discovery pathways through the exhibit. And so if you look at the floor, the purpose of this is to show the estuarine water that mixes with the coastal waters, and to learn about the processes that govern estuaries. There's a diorama on the right side that interprets the wet pine savanna, but also the remediation and the habitat restoration actions that we do. So there'll be part of that that's a burned wet pine savanna, and part of it where it's showing where it's just coming back, and part of it showing where it's more mature. It'll have lots of animals and touchables in this diorama. So so everything in there is for kids and adults to touch. There's recordings that they can hear and interpretive displays. And there's also a fun little burrow that will have a gopher tortoise model in it, but it's also, you can switch it out. So you could put a raccoon in there, or you could put an armadillo in there, or an owl. We have a project that looks at all of the different animals that use these gopher tortoise burrows. And so we asked for them to include a way to display that. Towards the windows, the visitors will explore another diorama of carnivorous plants that interpret the fascinating methods that they use to acquire nutrient in the tannin-soaked landscape. And then if they continue along the windows, they'll have binoculars where they can look out. There's an elevated platform so they can see the pine savanna out through the windows better than they can now. And there's also it's also a good area to do a classroom experience. So because it's an elevated kind of stairs, you can also sit children there for discussions about these different features. And then on the left side of the space, we have an herbarium, a turbidity and filtration interactive that all show the importance and necessity of ecosystems and highlight how we work to maintain it. We will have live displays here. So you can see on the left side, the Toby is our diamondback terrapin. And we have a bigger tank and kind of more focus on Toby in this rendering of our interpretive center. On the right side, we'll have fiddler crabs in a tank there. That could also be switched out with other things. If we run across a snake that would need rehabilitation, or some corn snake or something, we could also display it there or hold it there. Next slide. So that's just the overview. So you can kind of see the platform, the viewing platform. You can see, the center map and kind of how things are laid out. And the next slide. And this is a lot of what we were just talking about. Next slide. And some labeling of that same things. And then this shows the carnivorous plant interactive. And you can see that there's the diorama of all of the different types of carnivorous plant. And then the interactive there is kind of these discs that drop through the pitcher plant, and they can be pinned at different locations and show like different stages of digestion of whatever it is, the insects or the anoles or lizards that, drop into those that then get digested. And so it's just kind of fun. So the project budget range for this project is between $800,000 and $1 million. That's what
we do have a public comment, Mr. Ralph Humphrey. Mr. Ralph, your name and address, and you got 3 minutes. You know the routine. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ralph Humphrey, and my address is 4039 Brandon James Drive in Biloxi, Mississippi, and I'm the president of the Mississippi Gulf Fishing Banks. I'm here to let you all know that the long-awaited artificial reef with the cockroach on the back of it is heading out this weekend. It's going to pull away from the dock on Sunday, late Sunday afternoon, and it's going to be deployed Monday morning. It'll be on site, ready to go Monday morning. And we've coordinated with WLOX, the Artificial Reef Bureau Director, Travis Williams, and everything is ready to go. So I know a lot of people have been asking about it. They've been anxious, when's it going to go out? So now's the time. It just took a while to coordinate schedules and good weather. It's been blowing pretty hard, as y'all know, for the last few weeks. So anyways, it's ready to go.
Great, Ralph. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll see some coverage on the news with it. Be great. All right. Is there any other questions or comments from anybody? If not, do we have a motion to close?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.